The elevator is empty. The air feels stale, a kind of stillness that presses against your ears. And you press the buttons in the sequence as you were instructed. And when you get to the 10th floor, you realize there's something wrong with this building. The floors don't make sense. I mean, it looks just like the building you were in before, but different. Almost like you stepped into another dimension. This is what happens when you play the elevator game. Tonight on Weirded Out, we'll explore its unsettling origins, the exact steps you must follow, and accounts of what happened when people tried it. So let's get into it. The elevator game is known as an urban legend, a cursed ritual. It turns out that this game is a relatively new creepypasta. It was first talked in Japanese forums in 2008, and from there it jumped to South Korea by 2010, surfacing on Korean blogs, with the first post being in July of 2010, where a netizen recounted their attempt at the game. And by 2011, there were already multiple English versions spreading online. Authors of these posts portray this as a step-by-step ritual that blurs the lines of reality. They warned that if you succeeded, your phone would die and you would see your own city plunged into darkness, except for a distant red cross. If you follow the steps correctly, something strange happens. The elevator won't just take you to a floor, it will take you to a different dimension. They call it the other world, a place that looks like your world but just isn't. A place where you're alone, where the sky is red, where no one can hear you if you scream, and sometimes not even the elevator can bring you back. This isn't a game you play to win. This is a game you play to disappear into a different dimension and just hope that you remember the sequence to go back home. Now, before we dive into the theories, the sightings, and the stories, let's talk about how you actually play. Well, the rules are very simple, which makes it even more scary. But be aware that even the smallest misstep can be fatal. First, you need a building with at least 10 floors and an elevator. And you must be alone. If someone else gets in the elevator with you at any point, you have to start over, no exceptions. And step by step, here's what you do. First, you will enter the elevator on the first floor. Don't speak, don't look around, and press the button for the 4th floor. When you reach the 4th floor, don't get out. Press the button for the 2nd floor. At the 2nd floor, again, don't get out. Press the button for the 6th floor. When you reach the 6th floor, stay silent and press the button for the 2nd floor again. At the 2nd floor, press the button for the 10th floor. And once you arrive to the 10th floor, press the button for the 5th floor. At this floor, something might happen. A woman could enter the elevator, but do not look at her. Do not speak to her, no matter how human and familiar she looks, no matter what she says. She might be young, she might be old, she might be wearing something familiar. She might even try to impersonate someone that you know. Do not fall for it. Some say that she's beautiful, others say that she looks dead. But everyone says the same thing. There's something off about her. Like she's trying to look human, but doesn't quite know how. And if you glance even for a second, you will see her staring at you. She might speak to you, she might ask, "Where are you going?" or "I'm lost, can you help?" or even, "I know you." Whenever she says anything, don't answer. Even acknowledging her presence is said to trigger something dangerous. There are stories of people who responded and never made it out. And players also said that the woman followed them home. Some say she's just a ghost, others think she's a demon or a gatekeeper to the other world, and a few believe that she's the last person who played the game and lost. And the most chilling theory is that she's not there to hurt you, she's there to switch places with you. Now, if you follow those rules and don't speak to her, you may now press the button to the first floor. If the elevator descends to the first floor, you have failed. You are back in your world. But if the elevator goes to the 10th floor, congratulations, you've entered the other world. Now, the other world. If the elevator opens on the 10th floor and the ritual was followed exactly, you should step out of the elevator very carefully. Now, this is not your world. Everything will look very familiar, but it will feel wrong. The hallway may look identical to the one in your building, the lighting, the floor numbers, even the scent in the air, but it is not. Some stories say that you see a glowing red cross on a distant building, and outside the window the sky turns a blood red color. One Redditor said, "I saw a small red cross on the top of one of the buildings. No people or any lights. Everything was covered in some kind of mist. There will be no signs of life. No birds, no cars, no wind, no hum of electricity, just stillness." And some people say that their phones stop working completely. Others report strange messages coming from unknown numbers. And a few even claim they saw someone watching them from the far end of the hallway. But the most terrifying part is that you will feel like you're being watched the entire time. The other world is an eerie mirror of reality, the same layout but utterly empty and frozen in time. So, now that you've played the game successfully and you've entered the other world, how do you leave? You have to simply go back to the elevator, follow the same exact sequence of buttons as before, but now in reverse. But here's the catch. Some people say that the elevator doesn't work on the first try. Some say they had to repeat the pattern 5, 10, 20 times before the elevator moved again, and one person claimed it never did. Some people managed to get back home, but the world looked different. It wasn't the same as it was before. A loved one looked at them like a stranger, their house key didn't work, the reflection in the mirror blinked at the wrong time. Like something was off, or maybe they never actually left. Okay, so here's what you're here for. Real stories, or at least stories someone claims are real. Now, you know how Reddit is, right? Like half the posts get deleted and the other half are written like someone is whispering into their keyboard at 3 a.m. terrified out of their mind. And yes, some of them are just some teenagers trying to scare themselves and play a silly little game. Some of these maybe are just people writing scary stories. But there were a few stories that stood out to me. So the first user played the elevator game and he swore it almost killed him. He was initially a skeptic, the kind who laughs at the face of a creepypasta and mocks anything remotely supernatural. But he couldn't stop thinking about this elevator ritual. The idea of slipping into this other dimension by just clicking some buttons on an elevator, it sounds too ridiculous not to try. So one Saturday night, he decides, screw it, I'm just gonna try this silly game. He lived on the 11th floor of an apartment building, and even though the warnings online are not to use your own building where you live to play the game, he did it anyways. So he stepped into the elevator and began the sequence 4, 2, 6, 2, then 10, 5, 1. And nothing happened. No woman on the 5th floor, no mysterious detour to the 10th floor. The elevator just obeyed the buttons like it always does. And he just walked back to his apartment feeling really smug. He proved it right. He is right being a skeptic, it didn't work. But that night, he couldn't sleep. Not because of nerves, but he felt that something was wrong. He tossed and turned, sweating through the sheets, and when morning came, he dragged himself out of bed feeling really shitty and just went out for some groceries. And that's when he noticed the elevator was out of order. That was his first red flag. He had this weird feeling that something wasn't right. The rest of his Sunday was fine and nothing happened until 10 p.m. He heard a weird cry right outside of his apartment door, and he lived alone on that floor. His neighbors were actually out of town, so he was really curious and he decided to step out into the hallway, and he saw wet footprints and they trailed across the floor leading straight to the elevator, which somehow was working again. So he followed the footprints and every instinct told him to turn back, but something else urged him to keep going. So he planned to just take the elevator, go to the first floor, and maybe talk to the security guard and ask if he saw something. But even though he clicked the first floor, the elevator stopped at the fifth. And standing there was a woman. Long, tangled black hair, a black evening gown. Skin was peeling from her feet, and she was all wet and rotten, like she had clawed her way out of a swamp. She smelled like death, and she smiled at him. And that was the moment he completely stopped being skeptical. He knew without a question she was the woman from the elevator game. He slammed the button for the first floor, but the elevator ascended just like the game said it would. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When the doors opened, he ran. He didn't think, he just bolted. But the hallway never ended. No matter how far he ran, it just looped. It was like it was endless. And the outside sky, glimpsing through a window, was red. Not a sunset red, but blood red. And he could also see that red cross, just like the urban legend said. But this one was covered in dismembered limbs. Now he looked away and forced himself to stop running. So he ran back and hit the elevator button, and to his surprise, the doors opened instantly. So he reversed the ritual and he made it home. But that night, it just wasn't over yet. As soon as he closed his eyes, he was back in the hallway, running again, and this time he was being chased. He woke up in horror, tried to shake it off, and went about his day, but every single time he fell asleep again, she was waiting, that woman from the elevator, and she was literally chasing him through the hallway every single time. In one of those dreams, the woman touched his stomach, and when he woke up, there was a deep, dark red mark where she touched him. And not only that, his body was burning up. He had an extremely high fever. So he ran into the AR and found out he had an internal bleeding. And the doctors couldn't explain what was going on, but he knew that he needed someone to help him. Now, from his hospital bed, he searched up every single cleansing ritual he could find. So he dragged himself to the hospital chapel, and for the first time in 25 years he prayed. So he checked out of the hospital, bought some sage, and cleansed everything in his home. And he even cleansed the elevator itself. By the time he made this post on Reddit, it had been a week since he first played the game. He didn't have any more nightmares, but even now, every time he leaves his apartment and passes the elevator to take the stairs, he feels her watching. Now, I do think that the story is made up. It could be true, but I am not going to play this game to find out. It is a very immersive story though, and it really made me freaked out, and I'm so glad I don't live in an apartment building with an elevator. But the next story, I actually can believe that it's real. It's quite interesting and a different tone. So this next story is actually something I found while scrolling on TikTok, and it's the main reason why I wanted to start this video. And I will leave the name of the TikToker on the video because she's actually amazing. She gets emails from people telling their horror stories, supernatural stories. She tells them on her TikTok. So definitely go check her out and give her a follow. So she tells the story of this woman who actually tried the elevator game during a party with her co-workers. Because of course, a Christmas party is absolutely the best scenario to be playing the elevator game. What a great way to ruin Christmas. So this woman works in this really tall office building, but this is post-COVID, right? So up until now, there's a lot of people who haven't returned to the office yet. And this was the case with her office. Many office buildings are just half empty, lights are off, and there's a lot of silence in the halls. And her office tower was partially abandoned. It's like a ghost building. So in any way, her and her co-workers are drinking, talking about urban legends when someone brings up the elevator game. And she's like, I don't believe that stuff at all, but I'll do it. Classic horror movie setup. So one co-worker reads her the rules and says, listen, do not mess it up or you will literally get trapped with like a weird demonic spirit. But she just left it off because she doesn't believe that stuff. So they all head down to the lobby and she has the button sequence saved in her phone ready to go because you wouldn't want to forget that, otherwise you can't come back home. So she gets in the elevator alone and starts the ritual, floor by floor, just like the game says. So she gets to the 5th floor, which is when the woman is supposed to enter, and right on cue her co-worker steps in. And it's not just any coworker, it's someone that was with her before she started the elevator game, someone that she was playing with or telling them she was gonna play with. And they just start laughing and saying, oh, did anything spooky happen yet? And she's like, nope, nothing happened. So the woman gets back out. But she has a weird thought. She's like, that was the 5th floor. We don't work on the 5th floor. And our party is on the 7th floor. So what was she doing there? But she brushes it off and just keeps going. So she presses the button for the 1st floor, and again, if it goes there, she failed, right? And if it goes to the 10th floor, it means she's in the other world, and that's what happens. She makes it to the 10th floor alone, and it's empty, totally normal. Like, again, most of the building was abandoned, so it just looked like an abandoned building, which is scary enough on its own. But thinking that it's in a different dimension now, or might be a different dimension, that's something else. So she wanders around for a minute and doesn't see anything out of place. Nothing that screams that she's in a different dimension. So she's like, I'm sick of this. So she goes back to the elevator and presses the sequence again and goes back to the 1st floor. When she steps out, her co-workers aren't there, and she actually gets really annoyed because she thought they were gonna wait for her. But in any way, she takes the elevator again and goes to the 7th floor where her party is happening. When she gets out, she walks over to her co-workers and says, yeah, so I played a game, it was crazy, like nothing really happened. But they barely acknowledged her. It was like she was a stranger at her own company's party. So she finds that co-worker, the one that showed up on the 5th floor, and tells her, I made it to the 10th floor, nothing happened. And the friend looks at her really confused and says, what are you talking about? She says, well, when you came to the elevator, and the other girl is like, I never went to the elevator. So our main girl is confused. She thinks that maybe they're pulling a prank on her and trying to scare her. So she kind of brushes it off and forgets about it. So the party ends and she goes home. The next morning she wakes up and her phone camera was recording. There was 2 hours of footage of her sleeping. Now she deletes it and blames the alcohol. Maybe she clicked a button by mistake. And later that day the camera's on again and there's another 2-hour video. And it happens again and again. Her phone starts glitching. Her camera keeps turning on by itself. And every single time she walks past a mirror, she gets a really strange headache. And then she notices something worse. in those videos on her phone, there were frames, flickers, things she doesn't remember doing. So she starts avoiding mirrors, she avoids using the elevator by herself, and she even switches offices a few months later. And the worst part, she never figured out what was happening. Now, this story is way more terrifying than the first story to me because it sounds more real, and it is very strange because obviously here you're probably already thinking that the person that stepped out on the 5th floor was not her co-worker and it was actually that woman that you're supposed to avoid. But because she talked to her, did they maybe switch places and she's still in the other world? Or she's stuck there somewhere, or she brought something back with her? I don't know. It's very strange. Could be true, could be not, but it's very easy to dismiss all of this as internet fiction, right? Like a creepypasta. It's not real. But then we have to talk about Elisa Lam. Now, you've probably already heard of her, but if you haven't, her death is one of the most disturbing, unsolved mysteries I've ever heard of. She was a Canadian student that was visiting Los Angeles in 2013, and she was staying in the infamous Cecil Hotel. And on the last night she was seen alive, there was CCTV footage of her in her hotel's elevator. Now, you've probably already seen this video, it is everywhere. Elisa steps in, presses a bunch of buttons, but the doors don't close. She hides in the corner, she peeks out like someone's following her. She makes strange hand gestures, like she's talking to someone that we can't see. And then she vanishes. A few weeks later, her body was found in the hotel's rooftop water tank. Now, I'm not saying that Elisa was playing the elevator game, but the footage is eerily similar. Elevator buttons, strange behavior, invisible presence, and some online theorists might jump on the idea that maybe Elisa was trying to perform the ritual, that she didn't make it back. And it is a wild theory, I agree, and there's no hard evidence connecting the two, and let's be honest, how could you even prove something like that? But it's the kind of thing that once you hear it, you just can't unhear it, and because it's a mystery that it's still so confusing, there's no understanding of what actually happened to her, then I think it's just people are trying to make something make sense. But what's really happening here? Why are we so obsessed with the elevator game? Well, ritual games like this, they tap into something primal. It's like Bloody Mary. There's a common psychological mechanism that's the power of common expectation and shared belief. In other words, if you expect to see a ghost, any hint of one might be your mind playing tricks. So imagine you're in a set scenario. The elevator is already kind of a creepy thing in itself, but then add to it some dim lights and all those rules and the idea of bad things happening, and you will think something bad's gonna happen. And any noise, any weird shadows or strange occurrences, you will think that that is a demonic presence or it's something supernatural, when it could possibly not be. And there's also a lot of people that believe that this is our modern version of folklore. Every generation creates its own mythologies, and the elevator game, it's just ours, just like many others. And of course, there are the believers. They will tell you that the elevator game is real, that the other world is a mirror version of our world, but very dangerous and inhabited. And if you play the game, you have to finish it, or you might bring something back with you. Now, should you try this? Well, at this point, I already know there will be someone who's gonna say, I'm totally gonna do this next time I'm in an office with an elevator. And yeah, if that's you, I mean, go ahead. I did a lot of crazy things when I was younger and played a lot of games that I wish I didn't, just because I wanted some adventure and to feel scared, and nothing crazy happened. I'm still here, right? But I don't know, people who claimed they went into the other world playing the elevator game, they don't sound very excited and happy that they did it. They sound traumatized. So I would try and stay away from messing with those things, because you never know if they're real or not. But if you do ever play this, just promise me one thing. If a woman gets into the elevator, don't look at her and follow the sequence correctly. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe to Weirded Out. I really like this type of videos, and I think I'm gonna be branching out a little bit from true crime, maybe some stranger true crime cases, but I want to talk a little bit more about this type of stuff that really weirds me out, you know? And yeah, if you like that, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you've ever tried the elevator game and your experience, and also any suggestions for my next videos. Thank you for being here. Talk soon. Bye.